hold, the bitcoinhold.com. The Bitcoin self-custody is the whole. Find the strength inside your soul. Your the bitcoinhold.com.
Imagine you are, building a vault to protect your entire life savings.
Right, a serious vault.
Yeah, exactly. You order this massive, multi-ton, foot-thick titanium door. You set up a retina scanner, a biometric lock. The works.
Sounds like a pretty impenetrable setup.
It really does. Except, when the door actually arrives, you just decide to install it on a cardboard box.
Wait, the cardboard box?
A cardboard box. And according to this massive debate that just erupted online this week, that cardboard box is the old iPhone sitting in your desk drawer that you've been using as a crypto wallet.
Yeah. The Zach XBT debate, that really blew up.
Oh, it was crazy. A massive fight just broke out over whether hardware wallets are actually garbage. And it's basically forcing everyone in this space to completely rethink what the word offline actually means. Welcome to this week's Deep Dive. We are covering the biggest developments in Bitcoin and self-custody. Okay, let's unpack this. What is actually going on with this phone versus hardware wallet war?
Well, it is a truly critical debate for anyone taking self-custody seriously. The core of this argument is really about boundaries, specifically where your security model ends and where vulnerabilities begin.
Right, which brings us to Zach XBT. He basically threw a grenade into the timeline this week by claiming that hardware wallets are, quote, garbage. And he said he absolutely doesn't advise using them for important tasks like signing transactions.
Which is a pretty bold statement in the Bitcoin space.
Exactly. His proposed solution was to just use an old disconnected iPhone as a dedicated hardware wallet instead. And the fascinating thing is, a lot of very smart people actually jumped in to back him up.
Yeah, they brought up some highly compelling psychological arguments for the ProPhone setup. I mean, this argument surfaces every few years, but the rationale behind it has definitely evolved recently. The threat models people are prioritizing are shifting.
Right.
So what were the main points driving the ProPhone camp this time around?
Well, the Unstoppable Wallet team came out swinging with a few major points. First, they argued that hardware wallets simply aren't discrete. I mean, the moment someone sees a ledger or a cold card sitting on your desk, you are instantly a confirmed high-value target.
That makes sense. It's a very recognizable physical footprint.
Exactly. But a phone, on the other hand, is completely invisible. Everyone has a phone. Nobody looks at an old iPhone and instantly thinks, oh, that's a crypto vault.
True.
And second, they pointed out the really devastating history of hardware wallet customer databases leaking.
Ugh, yeah. That is a massive issue.
It's terrifying. We've seen real names and home addresses exposed, which, turns buyers into targets for hyper-realistic phishing campaigns, or even worse, literal physical home invasions.
Those are extremely valid physical security concerns. I mean, the supply chain and the customer data trail are notorious weak points for dedicated hardware.
And then there's the software flexibility side of it. Mobile apps can build these creative security features that primitive hardware wallets just struggle with, like Unstoppable mentioned their duress mode.
Oh, right, where you can set up multiple peons.
Yeah, you can have unlimited unlock peons. If you are under physical coercion, you just type a decoy PIN, show the attacker a fake wallet with like a tiny balance, and keep the rest of your funds entirely invisible.
That's clever.
Blue Wallet's team made a similar point about leveraging a BIP39 passphrase. If an intruder finds your 24 words, they just see an empty account because the real funds are hidden behind a 25th word passphrase that isn't written down anywhere on that piece of paper.
The plausible deniability aspect is definitely a strength of complex software. But what was their argument for the actual hardware security of the phone itself? Because that's usually the sticking point.
Well, they argue that Apple and Google have already built state-of-the-art secure storage chips designed to guard the absolute most sensitive data in your life. The logic is fairly straightforward, honestly. If it's good enough for your biometrics, your passwords, and Apple Pay, it's the most battle-tested security hardware on Earth.
I see the appeal. I really do.
Right. Like, why buy a dedicated, clunky piece of plastic when you have this supercomputer vault just sitting idle in your drawer?
It sounds incredibly convincing until you actually examine it from a first principles engineering perspective. The entire old phone strategy rests on a fundamental fallacy, and the team at CoinKite actually articulated this perfectly in a brilliant technical takedown this week.
Okay, what was their take?
The fallacy is this: offline is a condition, not an architecture.
Offline is a condition, not an architecture.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break that down, because I bet a lot of listeners probably think airplane mode just magically solves everything.
Exactly. People assume that pulling the SIM card, wiping the phone, and turning on airplane mode magically transforms a consumer communications device into a dedicated signing appliance. But, airplane mode is just a software menu setting.
Right, it's just flipping a digital switch.
Yeah, and an empty SIM slot is just a piece of missing plastic. Underneath those superficial changes, you are still running a general-purpose operating system. You have literally millions of lines of code.
Wow, millions.
Millions. You have image and document parsers, a complex update chain, Bluetooth hardware, basebands on cellular models, and just all these background processes written for jobs that have absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin.
So going back to our vault metaphor from earlier, that operating system is the cardboard box.
Precisely. Putting a phone in a drawer doesn't magically erase zero-day exploits. I mean, CoinKite cited the 2023 BlastPass exploit as a perfect example of this.
What was BlastPass again?
That was a massive iOS exploit chain delivered through malicious images and iMessage. And the really critical detail there is that it was a zero-click attack.
Wait, zero-click, meaning the user didn't even have to open the message or, click a sketchy phishing link?
Exactly. The operating system's image parser automatically processed the malicious file in the background as soon as it hit the device. Boom, the phone was compromised.
That is terrifying.
Right. A clean home screen and a disciplined user wouldn't have mattered at all. Now, you might say, well, my old iPhone won't even have iMessage active.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If it's totally disconnected, how does the image get there?
But the point is that millions of lines of code mean thousands of potential attack vectors. And if you think air gapping, keeping it entirely off the internet solves this, you need to look at the Bitcoin paper.
Bitcoin? What's that?
Researchers took an already infected, entirely air-gapped laptop and extracted a 256-bit private key in seconds using electromagnetic, acoustic, and thermal covert channels.
Wait, hang on. Thermal channels? Like literally reading the heat signature of the processor to guess the cryptographic key?
Yes, literally reading the heat. The hard part for attackers is not crossing the air gap. It's getting the malicious code onto the machine holding the key in the first place. And a general-purpose computer, which is exactly what an iPhone is, gives that malicious code a massive playground.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see.
It offers a full operating system and broad hardware access to observe or influence the wallet software.
Okay, but let me challenge this threat model for a second. Are we honestly expecting average listeners to worry about autonomous zero-click attacks or, thermal sensors breaching their old iPhones? I mean, it feels like we're asking regular people to build literal underground bunkers just to avoid common street pickpockets. Isn't a wiped, disconnected iPhone objectively secure enough for 99% of people holding a standard amount of wealth?
Well, it's not about the pickpocket on the street anymore. It's about the fact that the pickpocket just got 1 million free, highly capable clones.
Oh.
Yeah. This raises an urgent warning issued by Nunchuck and Foundation this week regarding the, quote, agentic era. We are seeing the rapid rise of autonomous AI models that can run multi-stage, complex hacking campaigns at machine speed.
We actually saw a prime example of that this week with Hugging Face, right?
Exactly.
They got hit by an autonomous AI agent swarm that abused code execution paths, broke out of a restricted sandbox, harvested cloud credentials, and just moved laterally across their entire network over a weekend. It was running something like 17,000 independent actions without any human intervention at all.
It's wild. When you are dealing with agentic attackers who operate at near zero cost and machine speed, relying on an architecture with millions of lines of iOS or Android code is absolutely terrifying. The cost basis of hacking is basically dropping to zero.
So it's moving from targeted, expensive manual attacks to just automated spray and pray network sweeps.
Yes. One unpatched zero-day exploit and your phone is compromised. But a dedicated hardware signer, like a cold card, has a massively reduced attack surface. It doesn't have an app store, a web browser, or an email client. Less protocol scope simply means fewer code paths to exploit.
I hear that for sure. But what about the secure chip? Even if the operating system gets totally compromised by an AI agent, doesn't the secure enclave physically wall off the private keys? Like, isn't a phone's secure chip essentially doing the exact same job as the secure element inside a dedicated hardware wallet?
That is a crucial and widely misunderstood distinction in this space. A phone secure enclave is brilliant technology, but it is architected to protect the phone's operating system and authenticate the user to the device.
Right. It is absolutely not designed to provide an independent, verifiable signing boundary for a Bitcoin transaction.
Let's get specific on that. What does that actually mean when you are, say, trying to send funds to someone? It means the display is the true boundary. On a smartphone, the general-purpose operating system completely controls what the screen shows you. Microsoft has actually documented clipboard monitoring malware that actively substitutes cryptocurrency addresses in the background.
Oh, I've heard of that. You copy an address, paste it, and it's suddenly a different one.
Exactly. So if your phone's OS is compromised, the screen can display the exact address you intended to pay, while the processor silently feeds a completely different hacker's address to the secure enclave for cryptographic signing. And you have absolutely no independent witness.
So the device is actively lying to your face, and the secure enclave has no idea because it only signs what the operating system hands to it.
Precisely. But on a purpose-built hardware signer, the device itself derives and displays the destination address, the amount, and the network fee directly from the partially signed Bitcoin transaction, or PSBT.
Okay, so it cuts out the middleman.
Yes. If the laptop or phone you are using to coordinate the transaction tries to maliciously change the destination, the screen on the hardware wallet will reflect that change. The hardware wallet intrinsically does not trust the phone. It verifies the raw data independently. That isolation is what actually constitutes a vault.
Wow. Okay. That reframes things completely. The phone is just too complex and too noisy to trust as the final arbiter of truth. But, to give credit to the mobile developers, phones are still incredible tools when used strictly as coordinators.
Absolutely.
They are fantastic for running watch-only wallets, constructing the transaction, and broadcasting it to the network, provided the hardware wallet is the thing actually holding the keys and approving the math. And by the way, if you're looking to upgrade your mobile setup to pair with a proper cold storage device, check out the software wallets comparison on the bitcoinhole.com to see which apps handle this coordination process the best without ever compromising your private keys.
That really is the ideal architecture. You leverage the phone for its internet connectivity and user interface, but you keep the savings key isolated on a device built exclusively for the Bitcoin protocol.
So if the phone's proper role is to be your transaction coordinator rather than your vault, we really need to look at how software wallets actually evolved this week to make that coordination much more robust. The major news here is Cove Wallet's version 1.3.08 release.
Oh, this is a significant leap forward for operational best practices. Cove just rolled out end-to-end encrypted cloud backups for wallets, extended public keys or XPubs, and your transaction labels, all secured using a passkey.
Let's pause and explain the XPub real quick, because that's a term that gets thrown around a lot. An XPub, or extended public key, is essentially the master blueprint of your wallet. It doesn't allow anyone to spend your Bitcoin, but allows anyone who has it to see every single address your wallet has ever generated and every address it will generate in the future. So obviously backing that up securely is a massive privacy concern.
It is. And beyond just the XPub, one of the most quiet, devastating risks in self-custody is the lost metadata problem.
Ah, yes. Because everyone obsesses over backing up their 12 or 24 words, right? The seed phrase. They punch it into steel and bury it in the backyard, thinking they are totally safe.
The seed phrase recovers your cryptographic keys, yes, but it absolutely does not recover your metadata, specifically your labels. If you have been responsibly labeling every UTXO, every piece of Bitcoin you receive with its source, its purpose, and its future spend conditions, that data is typically stored locally on your mobile app.
Right. So if I drop my phone in a lake.
Exactly. You can recover your funds on a new device using the seed phrase, but your wallet state is completely wiped out. You are left staring at a pile of UTXOs with zero memory of where they came from.
Which is a complete nightmare for privacy and coin control. You might accidentally combine a piece of Bitcoin you bought from a heavily monitored KYC exchange with a piece of Bitcoin you earned entirely anonymously, peer-to-peer. And for inheritance, it's even worse. Imagine your family trying to decipher your wallet state after you are gone, just looking at 50 completely unlabeled transactions.
It's impossible. Keeper Wallet highlighted this exact issue beautifully this week. They said, quote, "Wallet state should never require memory to interpret. Cove's update solves this by backing up this vital metadata to iCloud or Google Drive using passkey encryption."
Okay, to visualize this for everyone, it's not like trusting a bank manager with your files. It's more like you are giving Apple or Google a locked titanium safe, where the metal of the safe itself is literally forged out of your unique biometric data.
I like that.
Yeah, they can hold the heavy box on their servers, providing the storage space, but it physically cannot be opened unless your specific face or fingerprint interacts with it on your specific authorized device. They're just storing the encrypted weight of the data.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. You eliminate the single point of failure of a lost device without leaking your entire financial history to a cloud provider. Furthermore, Cove upgraded their backend to the Bitcoin Dev Kit, or BDK, version 3.0.0. This allowed them to implement something called progressive wallet scanning.
Progressive scanning, which means what exactly for the average user opening the app?
Think of your wallet history like a massive multi-volume ledger book. Older wallet software used to read the entire book starting from page 1 every single time you open the app to check for new transactions.
Yeah, that is why older apps would freeze for 30 seconds while displaying a syncing icon.
Exactly. Progressive scanning means the software is smart enough to only check the specific chapters that have actually been written in since you last looked. It drastically reduces the processing overhead, making the coordination nearly instant and just much more reliable.
Okay, so we have better boundaries for our hardware, and we have encrypted, efficient backups for our software. But there was a third layer to this coordination stack, right? Network visibility. Because when your phone finally shouts that transaction to the Bitcoin network, there's a massive leak. Which brings us to CoinKite's deep dive this week into mempool.space.
Right. The mempool is simply the waiting room for unconfirmed Bitcoin transactions. Most people only interact with it when a payment gets stuck and they want to check you are, which completely undermines all the privacy you just gained by using an air-gapped hardware wallet and an encrypted software coordinator.
That is so true. If you do all the hard work to keep your keys offline, but then tell a public website exactly which transaction is yours, you've completely defeated the purpose.
This is exactly why running the mempool open source project on your own personal node is critical. It gives you a private window into the block space market. Your coordinator app queries your node, which inspects the data it already has, rather than treating a third-party website as a centralized oracle.
And this ties directly back to the physical hardware wallet workflow we discussed earlier, specifically with features like NFC push-to-X on devices like the Coldie card.
Yes. With NFC push-to-X, you sign a transaction on your hardware wallet and tap it to the back of your phone via NFC. The phone receives the signed payload and opens a browser to broadcast it. Now, if that browser hits a public mempool service, that service immediately logs your phone's cellular network connection as the definitive origin of that broadcast. But if you route that broadcast through your own self-hosted mempool instance running at home, that association is completely severed. You preserve your privacy from end to end.
Which sounds like a genuinely great operational practice for protecting yourself against random blockchain analytics companies. But, what happens when the entity trying to trace your IP and your transactions isn't a private company, but a massive state-level tax authority?
That's the real threat.
Right, because if your network setup isn't completely private, this new legislation brewing in Europe is going to catch you in a massive dragnet.
The regulatory landscape is shifting dramatically right now, and the implications for physical safety are severe.
Yeah. Bull Bitcoin is officially opening a legal front in France's highest administrative court, the Conseil d'État, to aggressively strike down the implementation of DTA8.
For listeners who haven't tracked this directive, DA88 is a European Union mandate. Starting January 1st, 2026, it forces crypto asset service providers to systematically collect user identity and transaction data and then automatically share it across borders with foreign tax authorities.
The terrifying word there is systematically. I mean, as Bull Bitcoin's founder, Francis Bulio, pointed out at BTC Prague, this is not about reporting suspicious activity or flagging known criminals. This is an automated API hook that conducts mass reporting of every single user's data by default. He called it turning know your customer into kill your customer.
It's a stuck way to put it, but it's accurate. It mandates the creation of a massive centralized database that permanently links legal identities, home addresses, and specific Bitcoin activity across the entire European Union and participating jurisdictions globally.
Which brings up a very pointed threat model. I mean, if history tells us literally anything, it is that all centralized databases eventually leak.
100%.
We just discussed how hardware wallet company databases leaking led to phishing attacks. If governments are forcing companies to compile a master list of exactly who owns Bitcoin, how much they own, and exactly where they sleep at night, aren't they essentially building a high-value hit list for organized crime?
That is the exact argument Bull Bitcoin is bringing to court. The risk to physical safety is not some theoretical cypherpunk ghost story anymore. We saw a horrific report highlighted by Jameson Lopp just this week.
Oh, the incident in Brazil.
Yeah. An 18-year-old influencer in São Paulo was kidnapped by armed men posing as police officers. They targeted him simply because they learned through social engineering that he invested heavily in crypto. They stole roughly $146,000 before a massive shootout occurred.
That is absolute nightmare fuel. And it proves the point perfectly. You just cannot trust a third party to protect your physical safety when they are legally mandated to expose your data to this vast network of civil servants, private contractors, and foreign jurisdictions. France alone has suffered numerous devastating breaches of highly sensitive government databases in recent years. A database of Bitcoin holders will be the ultimate honeypot.
This is the definitive validation of why Bitcoiners must favor absolute self-custody and, wherever practically possible, non-KYC acquisition. We actually saw beautiful examples of this alternative path this week as well, looking at the circular economies thriving in places like Costa Rica's Bitcoin jungle.
Right, I saw that update.
Yeah, over 800 merchants there now accept Bitcoin directly, allowing people to earn and spend completely outside of these massive, vulnerable surveillance dragnets. DAC8 illustrates why separating your real-world identity from your digital wealth isn't just an ideological preference, it's a fundamental physical security requirement.
Well said. Let's zoom out and summarize what this week's developments really mean for you, the listener. This week proved unequivocally that self-custody is a serious craft. You cannot just put an old phone in airplane mode, throw it in a desk drawer, and call it a vault. The attack surfaces are simply too vast, and the AI agents are getting way too sophisticated.
Absolutely.
You need to leverage proper architectural boundaries, where a dedicated offline hardware display acts as your final, verifiable source of truth. You need to utilize encrypted metadata backups, like Co's new passkey integration, to protect your wallet's memory from device failure. You definitely need to run your own node infrastructure so you aren't leaking your IP to public block explorers. And you must remain fiercely vigilant against regulatory honeypots like DC8 that actively put your physical safety at risk.
It's a lot to manage, but it's essential.
It really is. If this deep dive helped you stay sharp and better understand how to lock down your self-custody setup, please rate the podcast and leave us a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get this operational knowledge out to more people who desperately need it.
And as you review your current hardware setup, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought.
Uh-oh. Lay it on us.
We spent today defending the security boundaries of our current hardware signers. But this week, Blockstream formally proposed a new post-quantum opcode for the Bitcoin protocol called OP-CHEC-NCS.
Post-quantum meaning preparing for the day when quantum supercomputers can theoretically crack the elliptic curve cryptography that currently secures Bitcoin.
Exactly. If the network eventually adopts these quantum-resistant signatures to defend against future threats, the mathematical processing overhead required to generate those new signatures will be absolutely massive compared to what we use today.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right. This raises a highly disruptive question. Will the simple, low-power, secure elements we trust in our hardware wallets today even possess the computing power necessary to run these new heavy algorithms? Or are we standing on the verge of needing a complete, ground-up hardware redesign of every single piece of signing equipment we currently own?
Man, just when you thought your vault was perfectly secure, the fundamental physics of the titanium door might need to change entirely. We will definitely be keeping a very close eye on how that opcode proposal develops. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bitcoin Hole. Stay sovereign.
Hold your own keys. Stay sovereign. The Bitcoin hole.